Good evening. I'm hereby calling to order the March 26, 2018 meeting of Mayfield Heights City Council. Lisa, may I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Ballestria?
Present.
Mr. DeJohn?
Here.
Mrs. Finney?
Here.
Mr. Mano?
Here.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Here.
Mrs. Snyder? Mrs. Tressi?
Here.
Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. We're starting a little late. We apologize. We had a little technical difficulty. I'd like to welcome everyone this evening. First on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting held on March 12, 2018. Has everyone had a chance to read them over? Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the regular council meeting on March 12th?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Ballestria,
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Sabetta. Are there any suggested changes, amendments, or deletions? Since there are none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And I abstain. I was absent from the meeting. Next on the agenda are correspondence and announcement. Does any member of council have any correspondence or announcements? Seeing none, we'll move on to reports of officers, starting with the mayor. Mayor DeZico.
Thank you, Madam President, and good evening. On Thursday, March 22nd, a CPA Council of Governments meeting was held to review the 2018 budget and bylaws. That's the Community Partnership on Aging. The budget was approved and a new agreement for the city of Mayfield Heights will be forthcoming. Once our law director looks it over and approves, council should see it on an agenda very soon. The agreement includes a new formula for calculating transportation costs, as was discussed at our Finance Committee meeting. Some information Director Satin shared with us emphasizes the importance of keeping CPA healthy and viable. One fact in particular that stood out is that Mayfield Heights has a Mayfield Heights residents, 24.2% of our residents, I should say, are 65 and older, while 18.3% are under the age of 18. So our partnership with CPA ensures we will continue to take care of this important segment of our population. Also on Thursday, I attended, along with police and fire personnel, a 911 cellular demonstration. This is a new phone application used by some of the surrounding cities. The service provides residents with several resources, such as an emergency button that goes directly to city dispatchers, allowing them to pinpoint your location within a couple feet. It also has the ability to send medical information for first responders. Residents can send anonymous tips about suspicious activity, safety concerns, and service requests. And you could add a mass notification system at a later date if we wanted to. It also has a pretty cool feature called Friend Watch, which allows users to notify up to 3 family members or friends of your location and how long you plan to be gone. As the city currently has a mass notification system, we would be only looking at the 911 cellular features for now. The system also can be marketed to city businesses and schools. I believe a presentation to council should be scheduled so council can see the potential this app has for our residents. Last week, City Hall staff members attended a leadership meeting with Representative John Barnes discussing ways to obtain grants and support funding for community projects. The program was designed to offer strategies and tools for communities to work together to build a stronger economy and was facilitated by Jobs Ohio and Team NEO. Last Saturday, the Parks and Rec Senior Subcommittee, in coordination with local senior residences and local organizations, hosted the Taste of the World event. It featured a sampling of different food items from across the world. Approximately 160 people attended the event, which was held at our community center. I commend the senior subcommittee for coming up with new ideas that bring the community and residents together. And lastly, I had the pleasure of presenting a proclamation to Clara Locurdo, recognizing her 100th birthday. I went to Clara's residence at the Drake apartments for the presentation. In talking to her and her daughter, I found out that in 1968, Clara and her husband Pat moved to the then Marsall Towers and have been there ever since. I let her know that she is eligible to become a Gold resident this year and be recognized at our Gold resident lunch. She is considering it and will let me know. Congratulations, Clara, and happy birthday. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any questions for the mayor? Seeing none, we'll move on to law. Mr. Schmidlin?
The law director is pleased to report that it's warm and sunny in Hilton Head.
Hope he's playing golf.
So too.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Schmidlin? Okay, next, finance, Mr. Tribby.
I have no formal report, but as you know, we have some financial matters on the agenda, and we'll discuss those when they come up.
Thank you, Mr. Tribby. Are there any questions for Mr. Tribby? Seeing none, we'll move on to reports of committees, commissions, and boards. First, we'll start with the building committee. Mrs. Snyder's not here. Lisa, who's on building?
I am.
No, who's the, oh, Mrs. Sabetta, do you have any reports?
No, we did not have a meeting. I have no report.
Thank you, Mrs. Sabetta. Are there any questions for Mrs. Sabetta? Mrs. Sabetta again, finance and audit.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The Finance and Audit Committee met on March 19th at 6 p.m. to review the 2018 annual appropriation. Council should have the meeting minutes, the review material, Mr. Tribby's memo, several questions from council answered by Mr. Tribby, and the committee's recommendation to approve. This 2018-13 ordinance is on the agenda tonight with the 2018-20-21 resolutions. We can address them when they come up. At the meeting, every department and fund, line by line, was reviewed in the committee meeting. All questions were answered. The budget summary and the work file listing memo review the general fund revenues are projected to total $22,336,675, a decrease from the 2017 revenues. Projected general fund expenditures are $23,348,626, including interfund transfers. The projected expenditures. The city is in the process of issuing $4 million in notes to fund the road program. The funding of capital needs will require a combination of borrowing and revenue enhancements. The city entered 2018 with an unencumbered balance in the general fund of $8,888,691.28. Having a fund balance that is 38% of projected expenditures give the city a strong position. Rule of thumb is 15 to 20%. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Sabetta. Are there any questions for Mrs. Sabetta? Seeing none, we'll move on to Legislative Committee. Mrs. Teresi.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We have had no report, no meeting, so we have no report tonight.
Thank you, Mrs. Teresi. Are there any questions for Mrs. Teresi? Next, we'll move on to Public Works and Service. Mr. Balestria.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The committee did not meet this past 2 weeks, so I have no report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Balestria. Are there any questions for Mr. Balestria? Parks and Recs, Mr. Mano.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Resident registration for day camp, swim lessons, and pool passes begins on Saturday, April 14th from 8 to 10:30 a.m. at the Dijon Community Center. Please visit the website for more details. Pancake breakfast. Join Mayor DeSico and City Council on Sunday, April 15th from 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. for all-you-can-eat pancakes, French toast, and sausage. Tickets can be purchased in advance from the mayor, any council member, Park and Recreation Commission member, or at City Hall. Pre-sale tickets are $5 per person, $6 at the door. Kids 6 and under eat free. CATS, the Citizens Academy for Teen Students. Mayfield Heights Police Department will be holding this program modeled after the Citizens Police Academy for teens in the Mayfield School District that have an interest in a career in law enforcement or just a desire to learn the whys and hows of being a police officer. It will meet on Saturday, April 14th and 21st from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. and is $15 per teen. Bingo. Join us on Tuesday, April 24th from 12 to 2 p.m. at the Dijon Community Center for bingo. A light lunch will be included, and prizes will be awarded to winners of each game. The fee is $5 per person. Registration deadline is Tuesday, April 17th, sponsored by the Fountains and the Greens. Our next adult afternoon out is Tuesday, April 10th from 12 to 2 p.m. at the Dijon Center. The cost is $10 and advance registration is required. Join us for Spring Fling. Menu is smoked chicken breasts over rice pilaf, spring veggies, dessert, coffee, and water. Entertainment by Sam Fosh. For more information on all programs, please call 442-2627. Park and Recs held the Bunny Brunch on Saturday. Was very well attended. Everyone had a good time. And there will be a Park and Recreation Committee meeting in these chambers tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock, and the public is welcome. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mano. Are there any questions of Mr. Mano? Seeing none, we'll move on to safety and transportation. Mr. DeJohn.
Thank you, Madam President. Just wanted to let everybody know, and the council received their 2017 annual report from Chief Bruce Elliott. He did an excellent job on this report. I urge all the residents to take a look at this report on our website. And just some highlights, the fire department had 3,691 calls in 2017, and 83% of those were emergency and rescue services. Well, thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. DeJohn. Are there any questions for Mr. DeJohn? Mrs. Tracy?
I don't have a question. I just want to commend Chief Elliott. This book is just amazing. It would tell everyone, including council, all of the calls, the equipment. It was beautifully done. I'd like to propose that every department put something together, the police department and all the other departments, service department, and pass out something like Chief Elliott did. I think it was beautifully done. Just wanted to commend him for that.
Thank you, Mrs. Tracy. Anybody else? Okay, we'll move on to Board of Zoning. Mrs. Sabetta.
Thank you, Madam President. The Board of Zoning and Appeals met March 13th at 7 p.m. There were two items on the agenda: the senior living holdings, which was withdrawn due to the council modifying the 120-foot setback to the 109-foot. Being that the setback variance was modified, there was no need for the variance, so correspondence were received from the applicant to withdraw. Next was Chick-fil-A, variance on an oversized sign. Communication was received by the applicant, who was stuck in traffic due to an accident. So we were unable to have her at the meeting on time, so the case was tabled. But we did get to approve the October 2017 minutes and the February 2018 minutes. The next BZA meeting is April 10th at 7 p.m. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Sabetta. Any questions for Mrs. Sabetta? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to Planning Commission. Mr. Balestria.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Planning Commission did not have an agenda last week and did not meet, and therefore I have no report.
Thank you, Mr. Balestria. Any questions for Mr. Balestria? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to our public portion. We now come to the public portion of the meeting. Pursuant to City Code, each person will be allotted 5 minutes to speak, with a maximum of 30 minutes allotted for the entire public portion. Although it is not a time for public debate, this is your opportunity to address council with your concerns. Please note that no personal attacks or comments will be allowed at any time. Also, if you are here in connection with an agenda item, this is your opportunity to address council. If you would like to be heard, this evening, please raise your hand and be recognized. Approach the podium and state your name and address for the record. It is now 7:24. I will open the public portion. Sir?
Good evening, Madam Council President and members of council. It's a pleasure to be here this evening in Mayfield Heights. My name is Anthony Coyne. I'm with the law firm of Mansard Gavin, and I'm here with Derek Hansen just to discuss a project that's coming to the Board of Zoning Appeals very soon. And Derek's here to answer some questions, but I just wanted to introduce it. The project involves a senior assisted living home that is proposed to be on what's often been known as the Lanise property at Cedar and Lander. It's on a parcel of land that is in a transitional area, near 271, near some other higher uses. It's zoned residential, and it would be used for residential purposes, but for senior living, assisted living. Not a huge nursing home. There'll be 15 bedrooms essentially for singles and 3 bedrooms for couples. And it's a full service assisted living home, but at a different scale. It's a very successful model. It's been used because it provides more of a home atmosphere for senior citizens. You have to be 55 and older to live in the home. Derek Hansen is here. He operates the one in Gates Mills that's been built and is fully occupied. We just thought we'd present it to you, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask them, but we're going to go through the process. But we thought it'd be appropriate to bring it to council's attention because we think it's an exciting model for senior citizens, and given the fact that we do have an aging community. I hate to admit I'd qualify for this myself, but it's really kind of a neat opportunity for Mayfield Heights. So, Derek?
Thank you. Once again, I'm Derek Hansen, and I'm the owner and the operator of Aria Senior Living. Currently, we do have one community right now that is in Gates Mills. It's called Aria of Gates Mills. Small residential home. It's right off of Som Center. You might have seen it. Small residential home. We have 10 private rooms there with a much higher capacity, but we've stuck to that 10 to 12, and really haven't exceeded the 10 at this point. But we stay full. We've been full for the year and a half. We have very, very happy residents and their families that I'd be happy to introduce you to next month if need be. And we provide a very high personalized services, very high staffing ratios, and the house is really based on somebody's actual conditions as opposed to assumed liabilities that they have and assumed limitations. So we found this lot in Mayfield Heights, and we think it would be a great place to serve the seniors of your community. Actually, probably 2 or 3 of our current residents are from Mayfield Heights, actually. So we just wanted to give you a heads up that we're doing this, bringing this to the zoning board in a couple of weeks, and then hopefully we'll be seeing you at the end of next month, I would assume, in our house. I have the floor plans if you want to see them, and brochures and business cards if you want in the meantime to come out and make an appointment and see the house in Gates Mills. I'm more than happy to let you come on in and take a look so you can see what we're all about. But we're very excited over these next month to share our story with you, and think that you'll see that we're a good project worthy of being in Mayfield Heights. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I actually had the opportunity to see that house when it was first built. It's very nice.
Oh, did you?
Yes,
Oh,
it's very nice.
wonderful.
I live across the street, so
Oh, do you?
I snuck and looked. Very nice.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, is there anybody else?
you.
Anybody else in the public like to be heard tonight? Seeing none, we will close the public portion at 7:28. And tonight, we will be deviating from the agenda and starting with ordinances opposed to resolutions, since we have to pass one ordinance before several other of the resolutions can be passed. So we will begin this evening with ordinance 2018-9. Mr. Schmidlin.
Thank you. Number 2018-9, an ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Mayfield Heights to enter into a collective bargaining contract with Local 1500 of the International Association of Firefighters, AFL-CIO, Firefighters Bargaining Unit, and declaring an emergency. Third reading.
Thank you. Since it's a third reading and there was a mistake on, oh no, not this one, on the other parts, I'm sorry. We just need a motion to approve. So is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Balestria, seconded by Mrs. Sabetta. Is there any discussion, Mayor? Anything you want to add?
No, I think we've discussed this pretty much for the last 2 readings. I think this is the negotiations went well. Both parties conceded and gave ground, and we came to an agreement that was good for everybody. So I think this is a good contract for everybody, the city and the employees.
Thank you. Anybody have anything else to add? Mr. DeJohn?
Just one thing that Mr. Murphy told us at the last meeting, that if we did not act on it, it would have, this contract would go into effect anyway, so, and that's according to how revised code 417-10B. That's correct?
Sir.
So, just, I don't understand that, because what do you need us for then?
You're gonna have to ask the Ohio legislators that one, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeJohn. Any other comments, questions? Okay, if not, Lisa, roll call, please.
Mr. Mano,
Abstain.
Mr. Balestria,
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn,
Abstain.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi,
Abstain.
Mrs. Finney.
Yes. So, Lisa?
3 to 3.
did not pass.
Fails.
Okay, that fails.
Matter of technicality, doesn't pass.
Okay. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to 2018-10. Mr. Schmidlin?
Number 2018-10, an ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Mayfield Heights to enter into a collective bargaining contract with the Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association, Police Patrolman Bargaining Unit, and declaring an emergency, third reading.
Once again, we're just going to ask for a motion to approve. So is there a motion to approve?
So
Mo-
moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sabetta, seconded by Mr. Balestria. Any discussion? Now, this is the police. Nothing further to add. Yep, Police Patrolman Bargaining Unit. Okay, Lisa, roll call, please.
Mr. DeJohn,
Abstain.
Mrs. Tressi,
Abstain.
Mr. Balestria,
Yes.
Mr. Mano,
Abstain.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes.
Mrs. Finney.
Yes. Once again, it's
3-3.
3-3, so that did not pass either. We will move on to 2018-11. Mr. Schmidlin?
2018-11, an ordinance amending Chapter 794 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Mayfield Heights regarding municipal income tax by amending Section 794.05 and enacting 794.27 and declaring an emergency. Second reading.
Thank you. Is there a motion to suspend the rules? Moved by Mrs. Sabetta,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Balestria. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Tressi,
No.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes.
Mr. Mano,
No.
Mr. DeJohn,
No.
Mr. Balestria,
Yes.
Mrs. Finney.
Yes.
3-3.
Once again, this did not pass. Oh, third reading. I'm sorry. It goes to third reading. It did not suspend. We will move on to 2018-12. Mr. Schmidlin.
2018-12, an ordinance amending Chapter 794 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Mayfield Heights regarding municipal income tax by amending Section 794.03 and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to suspend the rules, please? Moved by Mrs. Sabetta,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Balestria. Roll call, please.
Mr. Balestria,
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi,
No.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
No.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes.
It's 4-2.
So this ordinance 2018-12 will go on to first reading.
Madam President,
Yes.
if I could,
Please.
ask a general question, I guess. These two ordinances have nothing to do with the pending budget, so I was just wondering what the hesitancy is to pass these. As Mr. Tribby said in his memo, this is completely separate from the budget and is a matter of some state regulations, so I was just kind of wondering what the hesitancy is there. I guess it's a hypothetical, just a question.
Madam President.
Go on.
Mr. DeJohn?
Mr. Tribby, can you explain them to us?
Well, they are two changes in the income tax ordinance to be in compliance with House Bill 49. The state legislature passed some laws, and we have to modify our ordinance to comply with the state law, and that's all we're doing here. I'm not sure why there's any concern, but that's what has to happen.
And Mr. Tribby, do we do this every year?
No, this was something that the state changed for net profit collection, and these pieces of legislation bring our income tax ordinance in compliance with state law.
That sounds
It
pretty
has nothing to
important.
do with the rate, nothing at all.
Okay, thank you. We will move on now to 2018-13. Mr. Schmidlin.
Thank you. 2018-13, an ordinance making appropriation expenditures of the city of Mayfield Heights, state of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2018.
Thank you. May I have a motion to suspend the rules? Moved by Mrs. Sabetta,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Balestria. Roll call, please.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
No.
Mr. Balestria?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes. Okay,
You do not have suspension.
oh, I do not? Oh, I thought I did. Okay, this will go on first reading too. Thank you. 2018-13 will be on first reading. And we will then move on to resolutions. Mr. DeJohn?
Mr. Tribby, didn't you say in our finance meeting that this had to pass
Yes, I did, very clearly. I gave you a memo also.
by the 30th of this month?
31st of March,
Or we shut down, right?
that's correct.
Can I make a motion to have another roll call, please?
Yes, please. Motion to reconsider. Can I have a second?
Who's the dissenting vote?
I'll second it.
Okay. Roll call, please. Don did. I'm sorry, Mr. Mano.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Balestria?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes. So now we need another roll call, a motion to approve. Okay, can I have a motion to approve, please? Mrs. Sabetta?
Point of order,
That's
point
why
of
I'm
order.
confused. Mr. Balestria?
Yeah, you need a motion to suspend now.
A motion to suspend. Okay.
Yes.
Could I have a motion to suspend, please?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Balestria,
Second.
seconded by Mr. DeJohn. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Balestria?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes. Can I have a motion to approve?
So
Moved by Mrs. Sabetta, seconded by Mr. Balestria. Is there any further discussion? If not, let's have a roll call, please.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi?
Yes?
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes, 2018-13 is passed, and we can continue operating. Thank you. Next, we'll go to resolutions, 2018-15. Mr. Schmidlin.
Resolution number 2018-15, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Malamede Construction LLC to provide professional consulting and communication services in connection with community education and declaring an emergency. Second reading.
It's actually a third read on this one.
Third reading.
Third reading.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, Mrs. Sabetta?
I was going to ask if this was a third reading. Thank you for clearing that up. And I would like to make a motion to table this.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. DeJohn. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Teresi?
Yes?
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes, 2018-15 will be tabled. Next, we'll move on to resolution 2018-19. Mr. Schmidlin.
Resolution number 2018-19, a resolution accepting a certain bid for the reconstruction of Commonwealth Avenue, Trimore Corporation.
Thank you. Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Balestria,
Second?
seconded by Mrs. Sabetta. Roll call, please, Lisa.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi?
Yes?
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes. Is there a motion to approve?
I move.
Moved by Mr. Balestria,
Second.
seconded by Mr. DeJohn. Is there any questions? I know Commonwealth was in pretty bad shape. Anyone have any questions? Okay,
Ms. Finney?
oh, I'm sorry, I can't see you down there, Mr. Balestria.
Just one question, maybe the mayor can answer, because I don't know if we've dealt with this company before. I was just inquiring if we've dealt with Trimore as a city in the past.
I would ask Mr. Finaro to answer that question. Do you know, Joe? Or Dan, one of you two.
It's just a name that I was not familiar with and wondering if
Mr. Tribby's saying we have.
we have.
Oh, we have not. I'm sorry, we have not.
Dan Gerson, City Engineer, Mayfield Heights. I believe, what I hear from Joe is Trimore hasn't worked in the city of Mayfield Heights. I am familiar with Trimore. They actually did 2 projects in Warrensville Heights, I believe it was 2 years ago, road reconstruction projects. Generally satisfactory with all contracts. You have something going on, but I would recommend their acceptance of their bid. They were a low bidder, and I didn't see any reason for not to accept it.
Mr. Balestria?
And you feel comfortable with their track record? You said you only a couple.
I do, yeah. I feel confident with the track record, yes.
Any other questions? Mrs. Teresi?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Gerson, do you feel that they're more reliable than the contractor company that we have at Oakville? I've heard some rumors that they owe like $300,000 or $400,000 to outside vendors. Do you think Trimore is going to be more?
I wish not to answer the question on that. I don't have an opinion either way on that, with that. But I know Trimore is a good company. For this bid, I would recommend their approval.
Thank you.
Mr. DeJohn?
Mr. Gerson, how long have they been in business?
I'm not positive, but I know it's been a long time. I could double check that, but they have been for many years. It's been longer than 5.
And what's their specialties?
Their specialty is road reconstruction.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call, please, Lisa.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes. 2018-19 has been approved. We'll move on to resolution 2018-20. Mr. Schmidlin.
Yes, Yes, ma'am. Resolution 2018-20, a resolution authorizing the Director of Finance to transfer funds in accordance with amounts listed in ordinance number 2018-13.
Thank you. Can I have motion to suspend, please? Moved by Mrs. Sabetta,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Balestria. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Belstria?
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes. Can I please have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Balestria, seconded by Mrs. Sabetta. Is there any questions for our finance director? Mr. DeJohn?
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Trivy, I see General Fund 101, the 290,000, and then another 100,000 for Equipment Replacement Fund. Do we know exactly what that's going to?
Yes.
And?
The 290,000 is a transfer to the street lighting operating fund, which keeps the street lights on. It's the annual cost of having the street lights.
Okay, and the Equipment Replacement Fund?
Yes, that money's being transferred to the equipment replacement fund in the appropriation ordinance. We've approved the purchase of 3 police cruisers later in the year and a couple of pieces of small equipment for the service department.
Okay.
So these monies will cover those costs.
And then just one last question, the 100,000 for the accrued compensation fund,
Yeah, that's,
pension plan?
it's the payout of sick leave and vacation for retirees, and we'd like to try to build that balance up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, roll call, please, Lisa.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Belestria?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes. 2018-20 has been approved. Next, we'll go to Resolution 2018-21. Mr. Schmidlin.
Thank you. 2018-21, a resolution authorizing the Director of Finance to transfer funds in accordance with amounts solicited in ordinance number 2018-13.
Thank you. May I have a motion to suspend the rules, please? Moved by Mrs. Sabata,
Second.
seconded by Mr. DeJohn. Roll call, please.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi?
Yes.
Mr. Belestria?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes. Can I have a motion to approve, please?
Move.
Moved by Mr. DeJohn, seconded by Mrs. Sabata. Any questions to Mr. Tribby on this? No? Okay, no further questions. Can we have a roll call, please, Lisa?
Mrs. Teresi?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Belestria?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes. 2018-21 has been approved. And next we will move on to motions. Mr. Schmidlin.
Motions to authorize the sale of vehicles through GovDeals, 2011 Dodge Charger, then number 2B3CL1CT5BH587683.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve, please?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Mano,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Balestria. Any discussion? Anything? No? Okay, seeing none, can I have a roll call, please, Lisa?
Mr. Balestria?
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes. We will be authorizing the sale of the vehicle. Next, we'll move on to new business and comments from public, or from council. I'm sorry, is there any comments from the council? Mrs. Teresi?
Thanks, Madam Chairman. I saw a news broadcast about the Airbnb. I know here at council we had a discussion about, because we had a couple residents, I believe it was on Genesee, that were complaining about homes being rented through Airbnb. And it was just on the news the other day that Lyndhurst has done a moratorium to, about renting these homes for Airbnb, and Seven Hills was voting on that this evening. Seven Hills had an issue with a house that was rented through Airbnb, and the house was trashed by whoever rented it. And I think that we should consider doing a moratorium on Airbnb rentals here in the city so that we don't run into the same issue.
Thank you. Mayor?
You're chairman of the legislative committee legislative committee, right? We could have a meeting or you should have a meeting, I should say, and discuss that. I don't know did we have some legislation that's pending?
We had
Madam
talked about
President.
it. Mr. DeJohn?
Yeah, we have a moratorium on them
We
right
have a
now.
moratorium.
I think we do too, yes.
We
I
do.
thought we do.
So if we can leave it with the moratorium, or we can consider something else to eliminate the Airbnbs. I know at the last conversation, there was some discussion about not stopping Airbnb rentals, but I don't know if it's safe for our city and for the residents that live next door.
Mr. Pano?
I think we should go ahead and have a legislative committee meeting, and we should create an ordinance to keep that situation out of our city. First of all, they have no business in residential property doing a commercial entity, and that's what that would be. So we have a moratorium. I think we should take it the next step and create the ordinance. Thank you.
Well, why don't we send it to legislation? And I also have some ideas because I've heard a lot about it in the last month, strangely enough, so maybe I could come up with some help with that also. So you could keep us posted when the meeting will be.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Teresi. Anybody else? Mrs. Sabetta?
I just want to say happy Passover and happy Easter.
Thank you. Mr. DeJohn?
No, just for Mr. Schmidlin, I think Mr. Murphy was looking at the legal aspects of the Airbnbs after our moratorium on that, so you may want to mention that to him.
I'll pass it on to him. I know it's been something he's been looking at over the last couple of days.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything to add? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sabetta, seconded by Mr. Balestria. Roll call, please. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Sorry. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon. Thank you.